poetry recitation session, especially for our young friends. So if you wish, you could join there. Thank you. We are about to begin in a minute.
Haiku. I love poetry writing. So I am here to introduce one of the speakers, Ms. Tulika Saha. And she has contributed to the several anthologies, Essence of Emotions and Kafriana among them. Her short stories have been published, Diary of an Unknown Writer and Inscribbled Things. She has also translated a book on Subhash Chandra Bose, which will be published under the name of Netaji. And now I'll introduce another sir, which will be introduced by her. Hello everyone. So, Vatsal Shah is an architect and interior designer by profession, practicing independently since 15 years. Writing is his serious hobby besides his work. He began writing haiku 4 years ago. He shared it on Facebook and across writers group, and after receiving praise, he continued to develop his skill. And upon Umar Shankarji's request, this is his first public workshop he's conducting. Please give them a big round of applause.
Writing poetry is something that all of us feel like doing. But when you're asked, how do you start? That is a big question mark. Most of us are nonplussed when it comes to the question, how do you start writing poetry? And where do you begin? There are often times in our lives when we feel that we want to put a few words on paper and that we wish to express ourselves in the beautiful way that so many poets have done. But at that time, we wonder again, like we come back to the original question, like how do we begin? And so, this is actually an introductory session to poetry writing. Through this session, I would like to acquaint you with some forms of poetry as well as to help you to start on some of the writing. This is not an exhaustive session by any means, and poetry writing cannot be learnt in an hour, and all the kinds of poetry in the world also cannot be learnt in an hour. But definitely, this is the first step towards it. In case you're already you're a serious poetry writer, then you will have some things to take away from this, which will help you to improve your writing. And those who haven't yet started can always make a start. So first and foremost, I would like those of you who started writing already to raise your hands. Okay. Oh, quite a few of you have already started. That's excellent. Okay, some of you wish to write but have not yet started. Yes, okay. Yes, poetry writing has no age. You can start at any time. Yes, so that is excellent. So most of you are very interested in writing poetry. So we are here to learn how. First, I will take you through a few steps, some certain elements which are essential in poetry writing. Okay. This is just what poetry is all about. This is a kind of a mess it seems to be before you can make sense of it. Right? You see so many words here, and some of them we will be discussing through the session. What is poetry? On the net and outside the net, you will find so many definitions. This is the one Wikipedia gives you, okay, and it is quite complex. Yes, ma'am, can you read it out for me? You.
Poetry is a form of literature that uses aesthetic and rhythmic qualities of language, such as phonoaesthetics, sound, symbolism, and meter, to evoke meanings in addition to or in place of the prosaic, ostensible meaning.
Yes, thank you. Very nicely read. Okay, so this is the complex meaning, the meaning of poetry which is given on Wikipedia. You see there are already so many words there which we are daunted by. We can't even think of going beyond this, right? But it is not as difficult as it seems here. Okay? If you look at the next definition, it's definitely easier. Can you read that? Yes. Stand up and read that.
A piece of writing that expresses ideas, feelings, or tells a story in a specific form.
There. How simple is that? Yes? So, why is it so difficult to do that? Because all of us have emotions. Yes? So, we can express them. We all know a little bit of English at least, so we can all write, isn't it? And then, some of us know a lot of English, so we can write even more. But when we sit down to write, then it becomes my poem and not his, right? That is the question that comes in your mind, right? Let's carry on. Before we go there, this is what some poets have said about poetry. They're supposed to be a little, it's a little funny. Is an emotion put into measure. Poetry is emotion put into measure. The emotion must come by nature, but the measure can be acquired by art. Everybody is equipped with the emotion, but the measure, after that comes the real work. That is the art of writing poetry. Okay? First you have to have the emotion to get the words out, and then you have the art, the craft, to put it into a proper format. The immature poets imitate, mature poets steal. Oh, now this is something. Right? Poets are probably slightly a little bit, got a loose screw in the head or something. That's why they can write poetry, according to the poet himself. Okay?
The second one, about speed, it's
Oh.
not plagiarism.
Yes. Probably there is not a single person who can go through everything and find out whether you've stolen something or not. Okay? Okay? But most of them I have made on my own. But on the whole, I modified all of them, right? And don't worry, they were.
Plagiarism is when you copy word to word and put it under your name, someone else's. But an idea never has any copyright. So if you take
Does too. Nobody knows this song. Yeah. Using a known work and in a different way, in your own way, and giving it your own color, right? To it, but it is not plagiarism. Okay? Especially from the yes. What makes poetry poetry? The patterns of sound, imagery, figurative language, are centered on the page somewhere, or they have a particular form. That is the poetic form. Here is an example, a very small poem written by a poet called Emily Dickinson. A bird is dead when it is said, some say. I say it just begins to live that day. Okay? I think all of you can appreciate the beauty of these lines. Yes? And yes, so this is what we say, that the first three lines make up a stanza. Each of these lines is a line of a poem, and the form of the poem is the shape that it makes on the page. Right? This is just an elaboration of the same, with in addition of a few more types of poems. Okay, we all know and we love to hear stories. Okay, the oldest stories were not told; they were sung, and they were simple stories about great deeds or things which are done by people, and they were sung in the form of these poems, which were called ballads. There were traveling minstrels all over Europe who sang these ballads, and they became famous. They were translated into many languages without people ever knowing that it was poetry. In today's world, the form of poetry ballad remains the same. It is no longer sung. Okay, so you need not sing it, but it remains the same. Free verse, we will come to this later on. There are many types of poetry, we'll come to that later on. The line, stanza, sonnet. Sonnet is another kind of poem which many of you might have read. Yes? It has 14 lines, yes. And there are many types of sonnets, depending on from where it originates. All those things we will see at a later time. The verse is a division of the poem, the basic division of the poem. And it is a group of 4 lines, or a group of 3 lines, or a group of 5 lines, as the poet wishes. Instead of making so many slides for the same thing, all the types of poetry are now. You can just have a look at it. The top are the basic types of poetry. Lyric poetry, narrative poetry, and dramatic poetry. I'll just speak about them. Okay? The others, only the significant ones we will see in the remaining part of the presentation. So please read it. Sure. Let's start with the first one, that is lyric poetry. As the word suggests, a lyric poem is the one which has a kind of a rhythm in it. Okay? If it has a rhythm, then definitely you think it should rhyme. You're right, it should rhyme. Okay? It should rhyme, it has a rhythm and has a regular lengths of line. Okay? So that's what distinguishes lyric poetry from other poetry. Any child would love to learn lyric poetry by heart, but it's very difficult to learn poetry which is not lyric by heart because it neither has rhythm nor does it have a rhyming scheme. Under lyric poetry you have these kinds. A sonnet we already discussed, a 14-line poem, an elegy. Elegy is a sad poem where somebody dies or something horrible happens. Alright? There is one poem by, I think, Tennyson. Oft in the stilly night, as some slumbers chains bind me. Sad memories bring the light of other days around me. The smiles, the tears of boyhood years, the words of love then spoken, the hearts that shone, all dull and gone, the tearful hearts now broken. So this is about a person who's left alone. All his friends have died, but he is left on alone. So that's an elegy. An ode. John Keats loves to write odes, and they're all poems in appreciation of one thing, like Ode to a Nightingale, Ode to the West Wind, and so on. All these poems are lyrical because they all have rhyme, they have meter. Okay? Then you have narrative poems. Byron is one poet whom I recall who has written a great epic poem, but there are many who have written epic poems. One is The Highwayman, very famous one. Then Byron has written about bravery and things, more dramatic than epic. Right? A ballad, the first ballad I think is the one. The first ballad is I think the ballad of Alfred Prufrock. Yeah. Okay, that is one ballad that is very popular. Let us go, then you and I, as evening falls into the sky. It goes something like that. Then you have social poetry. All these poems have a message to give. Okay? Don't cut trees, have a cleaner environment, save animals, and such messages would come under this category. Dramatic monologue is when one person speaks in the form of a drama on stage. Soliloquy is again one person speaks, but this is not in the form of a drama. He's probably talking to himself, expressing his own thoughts, okay? Not dramatizing it as he would in a play. A character sketch is a write-up about somebody else or somebody's sketch who telling you about that person. Some of the poets have actually written about themselves and poked fun at themselves. Okay, and yes, they describe themselves so funnily that you would like to laugh and laugh and laugh. Okay, then there is oration. These are the great Shakespearean plays where you have a long oration, a speech given by somebody. Okay, a speech given by Antony, Julius Caesar, or Hamlet's soliloquy actually, but it is a dramatic form of delivery. Then you have these, which are different kinds, special types of poetry. Haiku, which my friend will take later on. This Sanke, limerick, that spelling is wrong, okay, limerick, and a name poem. A name poem is one which is written on a particular person. A limerick we will see later on, it's a lot of fun. And Sanken is only 5 lines of poetry. Yes. Figurative language. This is the bane of all school children, where the teachers ask them to find out the figures of each and the totally non-plus. How can teachers see them and not, right? Okay. These are things. So when you're writing poems, do you really think of putting figurative speech into it? No. Nobody, no poet actually starts off with the idea of putting these devices in. But when they start writing, they express themselves in such a way that these things come into their poetry. Alright? Also, all these things put together make for such reading that people are excited or they feel, they are in touch with what the poet has written because of this language. Alright? So sometimes you might say, water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. Okay? So when you say that, is there really not a single drop to drink? No. But that's an exaggeration. And immediately everybody sits up and takes notice. Right? So that is what the poet wants to do. Okay? Similarly, comparing one thing with another, which is more familiar to you. Okay? Now we don't know who this princess is. But you say the princess is like a red rose. Immediately everyone knows who the princess is. She's so beautiful. You don't have to express it any further. Okay? That line speaks for itself. Right? So figurative language, though it is not intentional, it is very often the reason why poetry and prose can be distinguished. Having said that, I would like to tell you that it is not true that only poetry uses figurative language. There are many people who write prose and their language has equal number of figurative devices. Okay? And you will find them even in mundane places like the newspaper. In fact, there was this great sports columnist who used to write about football matches. But his language was so beautiful that in fact I took it to class and showed people the figure of speeches that he had used it. Okay? So you can find it there. Okay? Imagery. Imagery is something that we all love because with the help of words, you paint a beautiful picture in the mind of the reader. Okay? So how does that happen? How do you think the poet would do that? Here is one example. This is by a poet called Philip Larkin. Why should I let the toad work spot on my life? Can't I use my wit as a pitchfork and drive the brute off? Can you see the toad? Can you imagine it? Sitting on your life? Yeah? Yes? So, that is imagery. When you can see what the poet is speaking about. Alright? Yeah. Personification. We all know that. Will somebody tell me what it is all about? Yes? Yes? Example is given here. An overly gregarious puppy. Gregarious is the person who goes out, outgoing person. So how can a puppy be an outgoing person? He cannot. But here the puppy is being personified. Right? Similes. When you compare something by using like or as, that I think all of you know, isn't it? Is there anyone who wants me to go into this? No. Fine. Metaphors? I just told you. No? A comparison. But here we don't use like or as. We just say, she is a red rose or he is a lion in battle. We don't say he is like a lion in battle. Alright? Okay. Can I go to the Now for starters, we will do one small exercise. Okay? There are few similes put over here. Put down 3 modern similes. Modern similes in what sense? You have to do this, okay? You have to write down 3 similes. Compare something in nature to something you use on a daily basis. Can you do that? Like most of you use a mobile phone, no? Compare that to something in nature. Or you can even think of something else, no problem. Okay?
I usually am right on so that's why
Oh, all right.
right in nature.
Yes, you can.
Car.
You can use a car.
Currency notes.
Yes.
A mobile phone is a modern Narad Muni.
According to ma'am, mobile phone is another money. Excellent comparison. Okay. Yes. Anything else you can say? Yes.
5,000 and 1,000 rupees note like tissue paper.
Hey, that is what is very much on our mind. Yes, that's a good point. Yes. Yes, someone else would like to give it a try? Yes.
The whole is the best to keep.
Yes?
The world is the best.
Excellent. The world is the best Wikipedia, right? Excellent. You learn more from the world than you learn from Wikipedia. Give her a hand. Yes. Anyone else? Yeah.
Run as fast as a Lamborghini.
Okay, he ran as fast as a Lamborghini. Well, that's a modern comparison. Good. Yes. Okay. Give him a hand. Okay, we go forward. Okay. No idea which is communicated just as such, in put in plain words, will express the emotion that you feel. Okay? There are two aspects of expressing the emotion that you actually feel. Alright? One is writing the words in a way that expresses your emotion, and the second is speaking them in that way. Alright? Reciting the poem in that way. There are two aspects to writing the poem. Okay, so when you recite it when you write down the words, the reader should be able to feel what you are feeling. Alright, that is the ultimate goal, isn't it, of writing poetry? The reader should be able to feel what you were feeling at that time. Alright? And the second part, in order to make the reader feel, you have to express it in such a way, you have to have the correct pauses, the correct intonations and things like that, so that he can actually connect with what you've written. Some people write beautiful poetry, but when they read it out, they speak it in a staccato, in one line. Okay? The words were lovely, dark and deep, and I promises to. Okay, like that. So it doesn't matter how beautiful the line is, it's totally destroyed. Right? So it is better to let somebody else read it till you learn to read it yourself. Right? Oh, but definitely, if you've written it, it's better you read it yourself and learn how to read it. Right? Yes. Yeah, this is my young friend, she reads very well. Okay? Yeah, rhythm. The rhythm of poetry is created by a few things. One of them is just like a drum beat, okay, the way the words go. And there's an example later on. It uses meter, rhymes, alliteration and refrain. And everybody will go on and on. Whenever your poem is near perfect, they will say the meter is not quite right. Okay, I cannot discuss everything about meter here, but because it takes a long time to learn about it. But other things that definitely we can learn and we can use. Alright? So rhymes you already know, and rhyming schemes, alliterations, and repetitions in the form of refrains give it a more musical quality. Okay? This is the beat. If you read this poem, then you know what the beat of the poem is. Okay? The poem is on a railway carriage. And when you read this, you will feel that you are on a railway carriage. You don't need to be there. Right? Faster than ferries, faster than bridges, bridges and houses, hedges and ditches. You see the beat? Right? And charging along like troops in a battle, all through the meadows, the horses and cattle. All of the sides of the hill and plain fly as thick as driving rain. And ever again, in a blink of an eye, painted stations whistle by. Okay? So if you know this, then you know what a beat is. Okay? So when you are stuck writing a poem, think of these elementary poems. You know, they have the best beats, the best rhythms, and they are the best teachers when you go about writing. Okay? So suppose you want to write when you're driving a car. First, you have to listen to the rhythm of the car. Second, you have to think of a poem like this and try to fit your beat into such a rhythm. Fit your words into such a rhythm. Alright? So that is how the beat works. Okay? Syllables, this is what I was telling you about. In English language, we have syllables, which are a combination of consonant and vowel sounds. So angel has 2 syllables, complete 2, recommend 3, entertainment entertainment 4. Okay?
You can elaborate a little bit on syllables because that will be needed for haiku as well.
I just said like I just
I'll say
yeah.
about it.
Yeah. So when we speak in the English language, one of the syllables is stressed and one is unstressed. You cannot stress all of them equally. Unlike some other languages, like in Hindi, maybe you speak all the syllables are equally stressed. French definitely has all the syllables equally stressed. Okay, but in English it's not so. So what happens is there's a combination of a stressed, unstressed, unstressed, stressed, 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 unstressed, 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 stressed syllables. All right. So this whole thing about syllables and meter and feet is called scansion. Okay, this art of finding out the number of syllables, finding out the meters and writing them. Okay, all that is called scansion. The basic meter is a foot, and you will hear this quite often that the poem is in iambic pentameter. Most of English poetry is in iambic pentameter. Okay, so iamb is an unstressed, unstressed, stressed syllable. A trochee is a stressed, unstressed syllable. Okay, anapest is unstressed, unstressed, stressed. Dactyl, stressed, unstressed, unstressed. Fondi, stressed, stressed. Okay, so this I will only be able to tell you. We will not be able to do any exercises elaborately on this. Okay. This is an iamb, what I was saying, iambic pentameter, no? So everyone says, so this is a syllable, an unstressed which is followed by a stressed syllable. Here you see, one small poem is done for you. I is unstressed, okay, asked. I asked my mother for 50 cents, okay? So, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed, it goes like that. To see the elephant jump the fence. So, they've already highlighted the ones which are stressed, right? He jumped so high, he touched the sky. He did not come back till the 4th of July. Okay? So, this is a simple example of the iambic feet. So combination of one stressed and unstressed syllable, this is one foot. Okay? Is it clear? Yeah. Yes, the meter. Okay. The number of feet, okay, that you have, okay, all those combined together will give you the meter. So if you have 5 feet. If you have 10 feet, then you have 5 meters. So 2 feet make up 1 meter. Alright? So you understand that this is not going to be a very easy affair. So we will skip this part. We'll just see it like I am. This is forget. Unstressed, stressed. Forget. This seed. Okay? Now what happens with us? Because English is not our mother tongue, some of us speak it in the same way we speak our mother tongue. So we don't know which ones are stressed or unstressed. Alright? So you need to go back to the people of this native language, who's native speakers of English, and then you will get the actual stress unstressed. Or you have to speak it all the time, and because then the rhythm will come automatically. Right?
There is an easy method, I am saying.
Yes. You can learn that from him. The wrinkle sea beneath him cross. This is an iamb. Okay? Because it is unstressed, stressed, unstressed. The next one is trochee. This is another popular one. That is stressed, unstressed. Okay? Listen. Lis is louder than S. Okay? So that is stressed. Lonely. Lone is louder than the ly, so it is stressed. Double, toil and trouble. You know where this is from. From Macbeth, right? Rhymes. Okay, these are our favorite parts of the poem. We all love rhymes, don't we? Of course, there's a modern tendency to think of rhymes as juvenile writing. Okay, some people feel that only when you write for children you should use rhymes. When you write for adults, you should not use rhymes. But I don't feel that way, and I think many people don't, because people continue to write rhyming poetry, right? The end rhyme is the most popular rhyme because at the end of the line there are rhyming words. Okay? The other one is an internal rhyme. So you have the rhyming words inside the same line. And the last one is a near rhyme, but it looks like a rhyme but actually is not. Okay? For example, you have bow. Bow and slow. Both of them end with OW, but they are pronounced so differently that they are not actually rhyming words. But when the poet is at a loss, he uses it. Okay?
Actually, Tulika,
Yeah.
I'll just inform them. Now it's very easy to find rhyming words.
Yes.
If you go to the free dictionary and you type the last 3 letters, it'll give you a full list
Yes.
of all the words which will rhyme with that. So
Yes.
if you are not so much puristic about just writing what comes to your mind, then you can do all these exercises.
Yes. There are lots of facilities today. There's a online dictionary for you. If you just type a word, you'll get hundreds of rhyming words for the same. You'll get so many synonyms, and people will never know which word is to be used where. Right?
But see, it's very difficult for you to remember or recall 40,000 words or 50,000 words. So when you refer this kind of a free dictionary, they just come to you very quickly.
Right. But when there is one thing I want to say here. Though the net offers you everything, you should have the ability to distinguish between what you need and what you don't. Alright? There are no real synonyms in English. You cannot actually replace one word with another. There are always degrees of differences. So only you can tell which one is most appropriate for you. Very often you find people just picking up, going into what? Okay, this word I've used here, I need the same thing again. They take a synonym and they put it. Right? But it doesn't even fit into that line. Okay?
It should convey the
And
meaning.
it should convey the meaning, and the nuance of the language is totally ignored. Then they'll come back to you and say that in the dictionary it is all listed there in the meanings. In the dictionary also it is listed with many meanings. Right? So which one do you need? That is what you have to identify. The pattern of rhyming, that is very obvious. The end rhyme. We have you will see the pattern in the next slide.
Next slide.
A, B, B, C, C, A, right? That's the pattern. A mighty creature is the germ, though smaller than the pachyderm. So germ and derm, A. You get it? Right. Place and race. His customary dwelling place is deep within the human race. His childish pride of he often pleases by giving people strange diseases. Do you, my pocket, feel infirm? You probably contain a germ. Okay? So last lines are, the last words of 2 lines are rhyming. So when it is like this, they are called couplets. Okay? A set of 2 lines where the last 2 words are rhyming, and then the meaning or this something changes in the next, then you call it a couplet. Yes, this is one of the poets, Ogden Nash, who makes a lot of fun of himself. Okay? So if you want to read funnier poems, we'll type Ogden Nash and open it up. Okay. Now free verse and blank verse is something that confuse most people. While blank verse is something that requires you to write in a particular meter. Okay? Namely the iambic pentameter commonly. You cannot deviate from the meter. Free verse does not allow you to, does not require you to write in a meter. If you wish to write, you write. And the meter may vary also. Similarly, whether you wish to rhyme it or not is up to you entirely. There is no compulsion in free verse. Okay? But in blank verse, there may not be a rhyming scheme, but the meter is definitely imposed. However, it is said that there is no free verse if you want to write good poetry. You have to sit down and edit your work and make it perfect before you can show it to somebody else.
You can even create your own versions.
Own versions.
there's this website, World of Poetry, and if you go, people have invented things like Equestrian, which is a four-line poem where first 3 lines they talk about something and last line asks a rhetoric question. So you can invent lots of your own forms of poetry.
Okay. So we have here is one 3-verse poem, My Shadow. You can look it up later. Okay. What I would have liked you to do is write a small 3-verse poem. You can do that while we are waiting for this. We just go over the slides. There's nothing much that I have not said. Okay. Now haiku is one aspect that we will be working on with Mr. Vatsal. So meanwhile, while he puts up his presentation and all, you can write a small 3-verse poem, okay, on a topic of your choice, okay. In the beginning, I told you that. So we teach you how to write a haiku.
Tulika gave an excellent lecture. I think she's also, and I'm not in the profession of teaching or anything, so I'll try to do my best. Regard this, the thing is, I got interested in writing haikus 4 years back because they are a very short form of poetry. So that's how I got interested in it, and I started putting them up across my writer groups and on Facebook. And then I got appreciation from people. Then Uma Shankarji, who's holding this festival, he told me that you take a workshop and you at least whatever you learned, you put it across to people. So that's how this started. They were like all types of poems. Either they were very classy poems or they were humorous poems. They were dealing with nature mostly, describing nature and all. Then dealing with day-to-day life incidents, the seasons, the different seasons. There was even juxtaposition of 2 contradictory ideas in that line, and it was meant to shock the reader, create a evocative feeling in him. His haiku into English, it loses the syllable count. So haiku became very popular in America in a few years back. That's what I found out from my searches. They had lots of haiku societies who used to write haikus, and they did away with this 575 thing. The only thing, it should be a short poem, it should be 3 lines. That's what they believed in. But still people do write in 575 format. And in English, the syllable count makes the poem much longer. In Japanese, it's hardly 2 words per line. But in English, because of the syllable count, you can write a little longer than the Japanese. See, syllable. Now, the easiest thing with Tulika didn't tell you is there are websites like this, wordcalculator.com. You can type the line and it will tell you how many syllables are there. Then you can learn it. You can read the definition. See, many people tell me it's the sound of a vowel. Like in cheese, it's only 1 syllable because only E comes there. Similarly, butter, and margarine has 3. But still for me, it becomes a little challenging when in some words, like the has no syllable. Even though it has an E, the has no syllable. So there are many words like that. So it is easier to first go through some system and then master that. And right now in this workshop, I'll not stress on writing in syllables. you need not worry about syllable counting. Right. Next one. So there are different themes in haiku. One of the most favorite is nature and seasons. This is all my own. This is not copied from net or anywhere. This is what I figured out. This is a favorite theme of haiku writers. Most of them are like they are like saints who live apart from the society, and they are like sages who write these poetries, basho and all. So they observe nature. Their haikus are about leaves or flowers or the beauty of nature, butterflies, insects, stones, moon. Moon is a favorite subject. Sky is a favorite subject. Horizon, river, stars. So they write poetry on those lines. Second is the seasons. They always describe autumn or they describe summer, like the cherry blossoms that indicate spring, or it's snow which indicates winter, or summer is scorching sun, insects. So the best way, if you want to write a haiku on nature, is to take a walk in garden or wilderness. You just observe the world around you, and you hear the sounds of birds and insects and all, and feel it, and then you write it. That would bring out a very good haiku about nature. You can even write about your experiences of the ongoing season. If it's summer and it's too hot, I'll show you examples. Next, please. These are some examples. These are not by me. These are by some American haiku societies. So the first one is summer night. Insect voices repeat the same songs. These are crickets and all. I don't need to explain. But second one is summer evening, fanning myself with a paper moon. Paper moon is obviously the paper fan. This is Japanese. That's why. Autumn morning, repainting our bedroom the color it was, because it's dull and the way it was. So these are some examples of nature and seasons. Next. Am I going fast or it's fine? Yeah. Second is day-to-day life. This is one of my favorite haiku thing to write. You can write about everyday things, write about your feelings and experiences that happen throughout the day with your colleagues in the office, anywhere. And it should paint a mental image in the reader's mind, whatever you're trying to convey. See, the examples is such boredom after the fireworks. Or you can write in between the fireworks. Then second is in a backyard, two women folding sunlight into sheets. They are folding some cloth or something which has been left drying. In the mirrors on her dress, little pieces of myself. So haikus, this gives a feel of the haiku. In 3 lines, it should convey the feeling. Next, please. Third theme is philosophical. Like these days, you get a lot of messages on WhatsApp and SMS about philosophies of life, and you can probably convert some into your own haikus. Take the ideas from those Hindi or Gujarati or whatever messages you get. I'll give you that kind of exercise also. See, write about your philosophy of life, whatever you believe in. It should be evocative, means it should generate some feelings, some ideas, and it could even give a jolt. It could break the usual notions and beliefs that a person has. These two are by me. These are some of my initial haikus. They are not metered. They are not following the 575 meters. In life's little pleasures, seek your infinite existence. Second is days flow and years trickle into endless recycle. So that is philosophical haikus. These are some of the these are some of the first attempts which I made. The first one is my first haiku I wrote in 2012. The monsoon whiled away in silly pursuits. I now sit to write poetry, lost opportunity. Second one, which Tulika really likes. Anti-aging cream, old lady died young. These all have been published in some journals or in some books. Actually, I forgot to mention in my intro, I've sent all these to many anthologies, so they have been published also in couple of books. On the club walking track, this is like I go for a walk to Karnavati Club in the evening, and you daily meet lots of faces, but you never talk to them, you don't know who they are. So on the club walking track daily, known faces but all strangers. Then this thing happened when we went to a very scenic waterfall near Pune, Kas Pathar, and there was this bhajia wala, and he was serving us, and we were like going there to see the waterfall, and poor thing, that guy was just interested in serving us and earning his money. So for the snack vendor at the scenic waterfall, no beauty. Then this is what haiku is like. When I started writing haiku, and my friend said, you're making it into a line. Even Uma Shankar ji told me once, it should be incomplete, it should not read like a sentence. So in haiku, friend advice, keep unfinished business. See, these are other initial haikus. I'm giving you these so it helps. You will probably copy this because the next slides are also.
Just copy whichever you feel you wish to write.
You can write a scorching summer sun, dash dash. If you felt the summer heat this summer or last summer, I think last summer was very good. Scorching summer sun, then second line and third line. Moon sleeping silently hidden. You can write the first line and the last line. Based on whatever emotions that picture creates. You can see it. Haiku based on this picture. First line is. You can write anything, don't be scared, this is not an exam. You can write something very funny also, moon sleeping silently hidden after having a big dinner or anything. It could be a humorous haiku. That second one was about nature, right? First one was about season, second one was about nature. These are three lines I got on WhatsApp or on Facebook. Two are by my friends. One is by Harsh Thakur, he's an actor. That's by another one of our friends. That's by Atul Kaul of Wordsville. And that's by Archita of Wordsville. Chu bhuli hu mane kudne tane pamba ma, tarit sahai chahu mane shodwa ma. Now you have to make haiku on any one of these you like.
You can use these to write your English.
Yeah. The idea is there. It's not written in English, it's not written in haiku format. So you can convert it into your own thing. We have 10 minutes, 3 exercises. I want you all to
A vein of
done.
that's a vein.
Work done. Okay. But moon comes in the night. But it's nice. Yes, sorry. Yes, sure. Please. Your name?
I'm Dhruv.
Okay. Are you in Wordsville or anything? No, not in any group.
Autumn realizes it's beautiful without flowers. Colorful or fallen leaves too. Colorful or fallen leaves too.
Okay, great. You will probably start writing. Yeah, please.
Yes, I'm
Your-
Shalini. I'm Shalini. I'm trying for the first time.
Okay, great.
Scorching summer sun, filled in winter quilts, leaves shivering me.
That's nice.
Under the blanket of clouds, moon sleeping silently hidden, waiting for the next minute.
Great. Okay, I'll make it. Autumn realizes how beautiful and lovely at times to let go. And scorching summer sun, street side I saw, stone statue sweating. Those are the